Revealed, the incredible journey of a little maid who transformed a billionaire's life forever. In the affluent suburbs of Chicago, 16-year-old Maria had just stepped through the colossal gates of the opulent Harris mansion, where chandeliers cascaded like waterfalls from the ceiling. The first thing she felt was a wave of self-doubt crash over her. Here she was, a little maid in a world of unimaginable wealth. The polished marble floors beneath her feet gleamed, but they seemed to mock her humble roots. It was her first day working for reclusive billionaire Thomas Harris, and she hoped to blend in, but the very air felt thick with privilege. As she scrubbed the floors and prepared lavish meals, silence filled the halls, only to be pierced by snickers of disdain from the guests, people drinking fine wine, dressed in expensive suits. "Look at her," said one, gesturing with a manicured hand, "she looks like she belongs on a farm." Maria clenched her fists at the sound of their laughter, her chest tightening with indignation. How could they look down on hard work? Her family, immigrants who crossed oceans for a chance at a better life, played like an anthem in her mind. They had taught her dignity came from labor, not from dollars. Each scrub of the floor was a promise to them, a promise that their sacrifices would not be in vain. One day, while dusting the grand study filled with shelves of leather-bound books, Maria stumbled across a faded letter that seemed to tremble with forgotten stories. It was addressed to Thomas from a veteran, a man shaped by his service to a country that had turned its back on him. Out of work and living on the streets nearby, his words echoed the pain and struggle that resonated with her own family's journey. Maria's heart raced, she could practically feel the aching for justice bubble within her. Before she knew it, Maria found herself speaking boldly to Thomas about the world outside the mansion's walls. "Sir," she said one afternoon, as she set down a silver platter of delicacies, "there are veterans suffering, and we could help." She looked at him directly. There was a flicker in his eyes, a challenge she didn't expect. Surprisingly, he engaged her, drawn not just by her words but by the undeniable authenticity she exuded. "Why should I care?" he replied with a trace of disdain, but it was a challenge she relished. The conversations turned into a partnership, where Maria's fiery passion awoke something in Thomas that had been dormant for far too long. They began collaborating on projects aimed to support the marginalized veterans, and for the first time, he felt the pull of purpose, the weight of his wealth now dressed in the cloth of compassion. But soon, Maria was thrust back into her world when her parents faced an unexpected crisis. Their small grocery store was failing, and they needed her help. Torn between two worlds, Maria felt the ache of loyalty to her family and the glimmer of a new path stretched out before her with Thomas. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Maria faced a storm of emotions, standing at a crossroads where ambition battled against familial duty. Her heart raced as she pondered the dreams ignited between her and Thomas. Could she achieve real change without leaving behind the family that sacrificed everything for her? With the looming weight of social injustice pressing down on her, she knew she was destined to become more than just a maid in the mansion of a billionaire. Would her journey end in hope or despair? Maria sank onto the edge of her bed that night, her mind racing like a runaway train. The weight of her parents' struggles pressed heavily on her heart. Her mother's worried eyes haunted her thoughts. They had come so far, fought so hard, and now, with the grocery store teetering on the brink of collapse, Maria wondered if it was right to pursue her dreams, to chase opportunities in a world that seemed so foreign to her own. Tears threatened to spill as she grappled with all the ways she felt divided. The golden world of the Harris mansion flickered in her mind like an alluring mirage. It offered hope, purpose, and a chance to aid those like the veteran whose letter had sparked a fire in her soul. But the thought of leaving her family behind felt like a betrayal. The next morning, Maria awoke with a resolve stronger than before. If she could help her family and still make an impact in the community, perhaps she could find a way to do both. She set out to take charge. As she arrived at the Harris mansion that day, the air inside felt different. Buzzing with energy, it hummed as if the very walls were anticipating change. She caught sight of Thomas in the courtyard, pacing, his brow furrowed as he spoke on his phone. He seemed distracted, burdened. "Sir." She called, her voice steady. He turned, surprise flashing across his face. "Maria? What's wrong?" "I think we can help your veterans in a bigger way," she said, taking a tentative step forward. He raised an eyebrow, curiosity piqued. "Go on." "Let us open a community center," Maria proposed, her heart racing. "We could provide job training, support groups tools they need to reintegrate and find work. And we could invite them to share their stories. It might inspire others." His eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "That's ambitious." Maria nodded, passion igniting her words. "We can also involve others from the community. They could donate or volunteer. It could make a real difference." After a moment of silence, Thomas sighed, a hint of a smile tugging at his lips. "You might be onto something." Encouraged by his response, Maria began spilling ideas how they could host fundraisers and seek partnerships. Each word that left her mouth built the dream stronger in her mind. "I'll think about it," he finally said, though Maria saw doubt flicker in his gaze. That night, Maria returned home, hopeful. She shared her idea with her parents over dinner, excitement bubbling within her. "We can create a place that helps others just like us." Her father looked up, eyes widening. "Maria, you really think that can work?" Her heart leapt as she nodded, feeling the warmth of their support. "Yes. Together, we can make it happen." But doubt nagged at her. What if Thomas's hesitation stood in the way? The thought made her stomach twist. She couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. Her parents needed help now, and she couldn't afford to wait around for Thomas to decide. The very next morning, Maria made plans to speak with him, determined to push through any obstacles in her way. For her family, for every veteran who fought and fell into darkness, she wouldn't back down. As she approached the mansion again, the looming structure felt more like a challenge than a comfort. Today was pivotal. Today would seal their fate. But, little did she know, an unexpected visitor was about to knock on the mansion's door, a visitor whose arrival would change everything. Maria stepped into the grand entrance of the Harris mansion, her pulse quickening. She could already visualize the community center, the laughter of veterans sharing their stories, the hum of activity as people learned new skills, the resilience blooming like flowers in a desert. But today wasn't about dreams, it was about action. Pushing through the ornate double doors, she barely registered the opulence around her. Instead, her focus sharpened on Thomas, his shoulders weighed down by invisible burdens, his expression a storm of uncertainty. She approached him with a sense of urgency. "Thomas!" She called out, her voice echoing slightly in the high ceilings. He glanced up, surprised. "Maria, what brings you back so soon? Did you think about my idea?" She asked, trying to mask her nerves. Hope clung to her words, but doubt danced at the edges. "I did," he replied slowly. "But it's a big step. Are you sure the community is ready for this?" "Ready or not, they need help," she insisted. "We can't just sit on the sidelines. This is about more than you or me. It's about those veterans who feel invisible. They deserve a chance." He studied her for a moment, his expression softening. "You're passionate about this." "I am," she replied, the intensity of her feelings spilling over. "And I believe we can do it together. You have the resources. I have the drive. We can create something amazing. Don't you want to help people?" Thomas sighed, scratching his chin thoughtfully. "There's so much at stake. What if we fail?" Her heart sank at his reluctance, but she wouldn't back down. But what if we succeed? She took a step closer. We can't let fear hold us back. We owe it to them just like we owe it to ourselves to try. You're more than just a billionaire. You're a leader. Step up. For a moment, silence enveloped them. The tension crackled in the air, thick with possibility. Then suddenly, the front door swung open, cutting through the moment. A tall, disheveled man stood in the doorway, mud on his boots, and worry etched across his face. Maria recognized him instantly. It was one of the veterans she had met while gathering stories for her proposal. "Sir," the man said, breathless. "I've been looking for you." Thomas's brows knitted together, concern deepening his eyes. Maria felt a flutter of unease. "What's wrong?" "It's John. He's in trouble. I don't have much time to explain, but he needs immediate help, or it could be bad." Maria's breath caught in her throat. This wasn't what she expected. Her gut twisted with anxiety. "Where is he?" "Behind the old barn," the man said. "He collapsed, and I think he has taken a turn for the worse." Without thinking, Maria turned to Thomas. "We have to go. We can't wait. What if we can save him?" Thomas hesitated, torn between the stark reality of the moment and the plans they had been discussing. But within her, Maria felt the urgency pushing her forward. "We can build the center later. Right now, we need to help. This is what it's all about." The resolve that gripped her was fiercely infectious. Before she knew it, Thomas was nodding, determination breaking through his hesitation. Together, they rushed towards the exit, adrenaline surging through them. But as they stepped outside, a question lingered in Maria's heart: could they truly make the impact she envisioned if they couldn't even reach one man in need? Now, they raced into the uncertain world ahead. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth as Maria and Thomas sprinted across the estate, the panic propelling them forward. Each step crunched on gravel as they raced towards the distant barn, its silhouette looming against the dimming sky. The sound of their footsteps felt like a drumbeat, echoing the urgency of their mission. "Who is John?" Thomas managed to huff out between breaths, the confidence from moments before beginning to waver. "He's a veteran," Maria replied, trying not to think about the potential consequences of their race against time. "He's been struggling a lot. He's opened up to me about his past. I can't lose him now." The thought sent a shiver down her spine. Thomas nodded, determination returning to his expression. "We won't lose him. We'll do everything we can." His voice was steadier now, strengthened by Maria's resolve. They pushed themselves harder, the barn coming into closer view. When they reached the door, Maria paused for a second to catch her breath. The old structure creaked ominously in the brisk wind, but she couldn't afford to let fear seep in. She threw open the door, the sound slicing through the silence like a knife, revealing a dim interior filled with shadows. The tall figure of John lay slumped against the wall, his skin pale and glistening with a sheen of sweat. The sight jolted Maria back into action. "John!" she called, rushing to his side. "Hang on," Thomas instructed, kneeling down beside her. He pulled out his phone, the screen flashing harshly in the gloomy light. "I'll call for an ambulance," he said, his voice taut with urgency. "Don't do it alone," Maria said, grasping John's hand tightly. "Stay with him. I'll see what I can do." She remembered snippets of first aid training she had learned years ago during a community service event. Gingerly, she placed her hand on John's forehead, feeling his temperature rise. It was alarming. "John, can you hear me?" she asked softly, her heart racing. His eyes fluttered open, struggling to focus. "Maria?" he croaked, pain etched across his features. "Yeah, it's me," she assured him, squeezing his hand. "You're going to be okay. We're here to help you." Thomas shot her a grateful glance as he spoke urgently into his phone, and Maria felt a wave of gratitude rise in her. It was all happening so fast, yet they were united in this moment, pushing through fear, through uncertainty. "Stay with me, John," she urged. "What happened? Can you tell me?" I don't know." His voice was barely above a whisper. "Everything just got too heavy. I didn't know how to carry it anymore." His words hung in the air, heavy with despair. "You're not alone in this," Maria told him, her heart aching at his struggle. "We're building something, a community center. A place for veterans like you. You'll have support. I promise." As John's breathing steadied slightly, blood starting to return to his cheeks, hope flickered in Maria's chest. Suddenly, a roar of sirens blared in the distance, and relief flooded over her. "There's help on the way," Thomas said, his voice breaking through the tension. But Maria couldn't shake the weight of what John had said. It echoed in her mind, the struggle. The loneliness. What if this was more than just one man's pain? A fire ignited within her. This wasn't just about building a center. It was about rebuilding lives. As the paramedics rushed in, Maria knew they had a long road ahead. Helping John was just the beginning. Turning to Thomas, she glimpsed unwavering determination in his eyes, ready to fight alongside her. But questions lingered. Had they just scratched the surface of a deeper crisis? What more could come from their efforts? As sirens faded into the night, Maria understood, they were on the brink of something bigger than themselves. And it was only the start. The paramedics flooded into the barn, their presence commanding the space. Bright lights spilled across the dusty floor, illuminating the worry etched on Maria's face and the pain pooling in John's eyes. They moved with practiced precision, shouting questions and instructions, but Maria was still lost in her thoughts. "Stay with him," she urged the paramedics, unwilling to let go of John's hand. She could sense him slipping back, the breath growing shallow again, and a wave of panic rushed through her. It felt like time had frozen, each second stretching into eternity. "Who did this to you?" one of the medics asked as they set to work, shining a flashlight into John's eyes. Their voices blurred into a background hum, and Maria felt as if she were drowning, her heart racing at the thought of losing him. Just a bad place in my head," John whispered, his voice barely audible over the bustle around them. Guilt washed over her like cold water. How had she let this happen? Could she have done something more before it got this far? "Don't you dare think that," Thomas murmured beside her, reading her expression. He took her arm, squeezing gently. "You've already done so much." The sirens faded into the distance, leaving just the tight knot of worry in her chest. The paramedics worked diligently, getting John onto a stretcher, strapping him in securely. They promised her he would be okay, but doubted crept in like shadows, lingering just outside her hopeful heart. As they wheeled John away, Maria felt a connection thread between them, a tether of unspoken understanding. There was so much pain in his eyes, yet also a flicker of gratitude, a silent acknowledgement of shared journeys. She stepped back, allowing them space, but her heart ached to hold on, to assure him that he would not have to face this alone. "Let us go," Thomas said, gently nudging Maria to follow. The weight of what had just happened hung heavily in the air, and she knew this moment was just the beginning. They rushed alongside the ambulance as it rolled down the gravel driveway, lights flashing against the darkening sky. The barn, once a sanctuary in her mind, now felt like a ghost of sorrow lingering behind them. "I can't believe it got to this point," Maria confessed, her voice trembling. "He was so lost. How many more are suffering like this?" Thomas looked thoughtfully ahead, determination igniting once more within him. "That's why we need to build this center. To give them a place to feel safe again. We need to do it much faster," Maria replied, feeling the urgency prick her skin. "If John is any indication, there are others who need this just as badly. I won't let them slip away. They'll hear about what happened. We can work on outreach, get people involved. We can build awareness." As they approached the main road, the headlights of cars zoomed past, oblivious to the struggles unfolding behind the scenes. Maria turned to Thomas, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. But what about the ones who don't reach out? The ones who suffer in silence? What if we found a way to reach them, proactively? Thomas proposed, a spark of an idea igniting in his mind. Community workshops, veteran stories shared. People want to help, especially if they know what is going on. As she listened, images of hope played in her mind, a place of healing, building connections not just between veterans, but between the community as a whole. It wouldn't be easy, but it was necessary. The urgency had morphed into a mission, one that blossomed with every beat of her heart. Maria felt a warmth spread through her. Let us meet tomorrow. We can start planning, gather a team. She locked eyes with Thomas, both of them knowing that their lives were about to change, not only for John but for many others. But then a chilling thought struck her: what if they weren't ready for the challenge ahead? What if they uncovered a darkness deeper than they anticipated? As they headed home, the night wrapped around them. A storm was brewing, but it wasn't just in the clouds above. Maria sensed the turbulence. Ahead, an inevitable tide of struggles about to hit. They weren't just navigating a project, they were diving into a deeper crisis. Would they be able to face it together, stronger than the demons lurking in shadows? The thought lingered as Maria glanced back at the barn. Tomorrow would come with answers or more questions. What awaited them on the other side? The sun peeked over the horizon, casting a warm glow that illuminated Maria's face as she stood at her kitchen table, papers strewn about like fallen leaves. She sipped her coffee, her fingers shaking slightly as she glanced over her notes for the meeting that would set everything in motion. Today was the day they would start planning, but her heart was heavy with uncertainty. Thomas arrived right on time, his energy infectious, though Maria couldn't match his enthusiasm just yet. He scanned the cluttered table and smiled, a flicker of hope sparking in his eyes. Looks like we've got ourselves a real project here. Maria managed a weak smile, but her mind was focused on the bigger picture. I just hope we're ready for this. What if we can't reach those who are still out there suffering? Then we'll adapt, he said firmly. But we need to start somewhere. They spent the morning outlining their goals. Maria found herself animated by the thought of community workshops and inviting veterans to share their stories. Each word built the framework for the safe haven they envisioned. Still, doubt crept back in like a thief. She wondered if awareness campaigns would be enough to break through the silence so many suffered in. As they worked, Maria felt a sense of urgency. Every statistic about veterans' mental health was a reminder of John, a call to action they could not ignore. We should plan a kickoff event, she suggested suddenly. Something that brings the community together. Let them see or feel what these veterans go through. Thomas nodded, eyes brightening. Yes. A community fair. We could have booths, invite local organizations, maybe even host a panel of veterans sharing their experiences. Maria considered the logistics, excitement bubbling in her chest. We need support from local businesses. Maybe we can get donations. Food trucks, games for kids. It should feel inviting. Let us make a list of who we want to reach out to, Thomas said, grabbing a notebook. The next few hours flew by, peppered with ideas and laughter, their fears overshadowed by the vision forming before them. But just as they hit a stride, Maria's phone buzzed, jolting her out of the moment. The screen illuminated John's name, and her heart raced. Hello. She answered, her voice trembling slightly. Maria, it's John. His voice was strained, and every syllable sent a jolt of concern through her. John. How are you? I'm okay. I'm trying to be, he hesitated, and Maria could hear the vulnerability woven into his words. Can we talk? I need to understand what happened. The worry within her blossomed into urgency. Of course. I'll come to the hospital. Just hold tight. As she hung up, panic gripped her. John had taken a step back from what had happened, and she sensed the weight he carried. Encouraging him to open up would be no small feat, especially given their shared silence around the pain. "What's wrong?" Thomas asked, sensing her shift in emotion. "John wants to talk," she replied, her brow furrowing. "Good. That's a step forward," Thomas said, struggling to hide his own concern. "But what if it's too much for him? What if he feels like he's drowning again? I think he needs to see you. He needs to know he's not alone." Thomas placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Maria felt a swell of gratitude in his support but could not shake the voices of doubt inside her mind. "Today is about action for others, but I need to be there for John too. I can't abandon him now," Maria whispered. "Then let us do it together. Once you're done, we can keep planning," Thomas encouraged, his resolve unwavering. As Maria gathered her things, she wondered about the conversation awaiting her. Would it bring healing or further silence? She stepped outside, anxious to face the challenge ahead. The scent of fresh rain lingered in the air, promising renewal, yet shadows hovered over her heart. One conversation could change everything, but what if it didn't go as planned? Maria took a deep breath, determination shining through the uncertainty. Just as she rounded the corner, her phone buzzed. Again a message that made her pause. A news alert flashed across the screen. It was a story about mental health struggles in veterans, highlighting John's case. Her pulse quickened. They needed to act fast. But what she didn't expect was the profound impact this story would have on the entire community. Maria's legs moved quickly as she navigated the bustling hospital corridors. Each step felt heavier than the last, weighted down by the concerns swirling in her mind. She could already picture John's weary face, the haunted look in his eyes that had become all too familiar. Would he share what was inside, or would they once again fall into the silence that had engulfed their relationship? As she approached his room, the dull beep of machines was a constant reminder of the fragility of life. She took a moment to collect herself, inhaling deeply before pushing the door open. The room was small, filled with sunlight that poured through the window, but the brightness seemed to amplify John's shadows. He lay there, still in the Navy hospital gown, with tubes snaking around him like unwanted vines. "Hey," she said softly, stepping inside. "Hey," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. The vulnerability was almost palpable, and Maria's heart ached. She crossed the room, pulling a chair next to his bed. "You look okay," she ventured, even as her eyes took in the lines of exhaustion etched on his face. "Yeah, well, I'm not on a beach," he joked weakly, attempting a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. They locked gazes, and in that moment, Maria felt the urge to reach out and hold his hand. She didn't, unsure of how far they had come from their last conversations. "I got your message. You wanted to talk." John sighed deeply, the sound heavy as if it carried the weight of his struggles. "I don't. I can't make sense of everything, Maria. Why did I let it go so far?" His voice wavered, and Maria's heart broke hearing the regret nestled within his words. "It's okay to not have all the answers right now," she said gently, trying to encourage him. "Let's take it one step at a time. And what happens when I can't move forward? I hate feeling stuck." His frustration bubbled over, laced with despair. Maria leaned forward, her heart racing. "What if we work together? With everything we talked about, the community fair, the workshops. Imagine seeing those veterans share their stories. You could be one of them, John. You could help others like yourself." He looked away, staring at the pale blue wall as if it held the solution. "I don't think I'm ready for that. What if talking could help you heal?" The idea lingered in the air, crackling with possibility. John turned back to her, his eyes wide with fear and uncertainty. "You don't understand. Opening up means confronting those memories, the darkness. What if I can't come back from that? I can't promise it'll be easy." Maria fought back the tears threatening to spill over. "But you don't have to do it alone. You have me, and you have an entire community ready to support you. He swallowed hard, emotion creeping into his gaze. I missed you, he confessed, his voice suddenly raw. A flicker of hope ignited within her, but Maria quickly sobered. I've missed you too, but you need to let me in, let us help. This is about healing, John. It's about hope. A long silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken words and unprocessed pain. She could see the war waging within him, the battle of wanting to fight against his own mind and the fear of losing another piece of himself. As she reached for his hand this time, he didn't pull away. Their fingers intertwined, a symbol of connection. For the first time in what felt like eternity, it seemed like they might be able to bridge the gap that had widened between them. The moment felt fragile, yet hopeful. They sat together, each breath an echo of the struggle ahead. They might have just opened a door, but Maria sensed the storm was far from over. All she could do was believe that this conversation could be their turning point. Suddenly, the door swung open and a nurse entered, breaking the moment. Sorry to interrupt, but it's time to go over some choices regarding your treatment, she said briskly. Maria exchanged a worried look with John. As the nurse began explaining the options, Maria felt the weight of uncertainty return. Would this be the lifeline they both needed? Or would it push John further into his mind's maze? Stepping out of the room afterward, she felt a mixture of hope and dread. The path ahead was unclear. She took a deep breath, heart racing, remembering the urgency of their plans. What if they could ignite change not just for John, but for veterans everywhere? But then she found herself worrying again. What if John slipped away from her grasp just as she felt she was reaching him? Maria pulled out her phone to check for updates. And there it was, a message from Thomas, an idea that could change everything. But what would it mean for John? The next steps felt heavier now. She gazed down the hallway, where uncertainty loomed alongside a flicker of hope. Could they truly build a bridge back to each other? As she ventured deeper into the unpredictability, one question clung to her heart. What if this was just the beginning of their long, winding road? Maria's heart raced as she stared at the message from Thomas. He was proposing a community meeting to discuss the fair in a more detailed manner, one that could incorporate John's experiences and possibly launch a support group for veterans. Her mind raced with possibilities, but she also felt a heavy weight pressing down. Could she really ask John to share his story? She walked slowly down the corridor, feeling the hum of the hospital around her, nurses chatting, the sound of medical machines beeping, and distant laughter floating in from the waiting room. It all felt surreal, like a world apart from their intimate moment just moments ago. Once outside, she found a small bench in the waiting area and sat, letting her thoughts settle. Taking a deep breath, she responded to Thomas, suggesting they meet to discuss John's potential involvement. But even as she typed, a knot formed in her stomach. Was she being too optimistic? What if John couldn't see the value in sharing? Just then, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a video call from her brother, Louis. She hesitated, then accepted the call. His face appeared on her screen, grinning. Maria. You look like you've seen a ghost. He said, teasingly. Just a long day at the hospital, she replied, forcing a smile. What is going on with you and John? I haven't heard much lately, he asked, his tone shifting with genuine concern. As Maria explained John's situation, she felt the anger bubbling beneath the surface again. He hesitates to open up. I want to help him, but it feels like he's blocking me out. Louis nodded, thoughtful. That's tough. But remember, healing takes time and trust. Maybe he has to find his own way out of this maze, you know. Just be there for him. Yeah, I know, Maria said softly, appreciating her brother's insight. But I'm scared of losing him in the dark places. I get it, sis. Just keep the door open, even if he doesn't walk through right away. Sometimes it's the small steps that lead to the biggest changes. After hanging up, Maria felt a renewed sense of determination. She needed to encourage John to take that first small step. The more she thought about the community fair, the clearer it became that it could be a turning point for both of them, a chance for healing through connection. Determined, she made her way back to John's room, her heart full of purpose. She could already envision the conversations they'd have, the healing that might unfold. But as she pushed the door open, a sense of dread mixed with her excitement. Inside, the atmosphere had changed. John was looking out the window, his expression distant. There was a thick silence in the air. "Hi," she said gently, trying to bridge the gap she sensed. "Hey," he murmured, still not meeting her gaze. Maria swallowed hard, feeling her heart clench. "I was thinking about the fair, about how we could use it as a way to help others, you know. You could share your story, however much you'd like." John's eyes lingered on the horizon, shadows dancing across his features. "Maria, I don't think I can." "Why not?" "You said you wanted to help others," she pressed, trying to ignite some light in him. He turned to her, finally meeting her eyes, searching. "Because sharing means admitting how bad it got. It's terrifying. What if I can't do it?" Tears brimmed in Maria's eyes as she witnessed the fear that clung to him like a heavy fog. "But what if you can? What if this is the way back to yourself?" He looked down, the weight of her words heavy upon him. She held her breath, hoping he could see the glimmer of hope she felt for them both. "Maria, I just don't know if I'm that strong." He paused, pain etched across his face. "I believe in you, John. You can take this step. Together, we can face it," she replied, her heart breaking for him but also filled with hope. As she reached for his hand, this time he didn't hesitate to grip hers tightly. But just like that, the moment was interrupted again. The door swung open, displaying a familiar face. Thomas stood there, his enthusiasm palpable. "Sorry to barge in, but I have some news." That could change everything. Maria felt a rush of anxiety. Would this news be the answer they needed, or would it complicate things further? She turned back to John, searching for any sign that they could tackle whatever was coming together. What if this news could be the breakthrough they desperately sought? Thomas stepped into the room, his excitement filling the space like bright sunlight. Maria could see the way he reflected hope, but her heart beat rapidly, hope intertwined with fear. She stole a glance at John. His expression remained unreadable, a mask of uncertainty before the onslaught of change. What news could possibly change everything? John asked, his voice tinged with a mix of skepticism and curiosity. Thomas leaned in slightly, dropping his voice with an air of secrecy. "I just spoke to a local organization. They're interested in partnering with us for the fair, and they've offered to sponsor a workshop focused on mental health support for veterans. It's a perfect opportunity to bring awareness to your story." Maria felt a flutter of excitement. This could be more than just a fair, it could be a movement. But she also noticed the shift in John's face. He was withdrawing again, pulling back into himself, and she sensed the panic rising like a wave. "John," Maria said softly, keeping her tone steady. "This could be a way to reach people like you. To help them understand what veterans go through." John shook his head slowly, frustration evident. "But I'm not ready for all that. It feels like I'm being pushed to take everything I've locked away and lay it bare. I don't know if I can." Thomas's expression softened. "I get that, John. But you don't have to share everything at once. Start small, or just participate. We want your perspective, but it's your choice how much you want to reveal." Maria's heart surged with hope as she watched the interaction unfold. She knew the importance of this moment. Imagine how it could inspire others to speak up and seek help. Your journey, however dark, could be a beacon of light. John looked between them, weighing the words carefully. The tension in the room thickened, and it was as if the air itself held its breath. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "If I do this, I need to be able to take it at my own pace. I can't promise anything." "Of course," Thomas agreed quickly. It's your story, your rules. Just know that this is a safe space, and we are here to support you. Maria felt a swell of gratitude towards Thomas. And we'll be there every single step of the way, John. You won't be alone. A flicker of something possibility, she hoped crossed his face momentarily. She wanted to believe he could see that this was the beginning of healing, not just for him but for countless others. But fear still held him captive. As they discussed logistics and ideas, Maria noted the moments of hesitation from John, like waves lapping at the shore always retreating, fearful of the next advance. She squeezed his hand gently, a silent promise that she believed in him, even when he struggled to believe in himself. Then, just as hope seemed to settle over them, the beeping of a nearby machine pulsed an unwelcome reminder of their reality. A nurse rushed past, her footsteps without pause or acknowledgement of the people in the room. Maria's heart sank. The outside world was still rushing forward, but here they were, caught in the moment where John had to confront his fears versus the chance to heal. As the conversations faded into an awkward silence, John's gaze turned back to the window, the horizon painted in hues of orange and violet. What if it's too much too fast? What if I can't do it? What if? His words trailed off, leaving an echo of uncertainty in the air that felt almost tangible. What if you find the strength you didn't know you had? Maria interjected, though she felt her own pulse quicken with the weight of his doubt. She could sense that the ground was shifting beneath them. They were standing at the edge of something profound, on the brink of a decision that could alter their lives together, or separate. Maybe it's time to reconsider what being strong really means, she added gently. But before John could respond, the door swung open again, knocking the breath from Maria's lungs. A woman in her late 40s entered, her face flushed with urgency. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she said breathlessly. "But I have information you're going to want to hear about the support group." Maria's heart raced anew. Who was this woman? What information did she bring? Would it build them up or add another layer to the struggle? In that moment, all eyes turned towards the newcomer, each pulse flooded with curiosity, fear, and hope once again hanging in the balance. What could she possibly say that would change everything yet again? The room fell silent as the woman glanced around, her eyes settling on John. "I'm Sarah," she introduced herself, her voice firm yet warm. "I run a local veteran support program." I didn't mean to intrude, but she looked toward John, hesitation flickering on her face. "I heard about your situation and thought you might need to know we just launched a new initiative. It's about giving veterans the chance to reclaim their voices through shared experiences, workshops, and mentorship." Maria could see John's eyes widen, the glimmer of interest sparking deep within, even as uncertainty threatened to drown it. "That sounds interesting," he managed to say. "More than interesting," Sarah continued, stepping further into the room. "It's a lifeline for those who feel lost. We want veterans to understand that they're not alone. There's a community of support waiting to help them navigate their way back. I believe you could be a key part of it, John." "Me?" he echoed, discomfort etched on his face. "You have a story, and it matters," Sarah asserted, her tone unyielding yet encouraging. "Every story can be a stepping stone for someone else. Recovery doesn't have to be a solitary journey." Maria felt hope swell within her again, her heart racing for John as she watched his expression shift. It was as if the walls he had built around himself were starting to crumble, little by little. "John, this could be what we've been talking about. A chance to help and to heal," she encouraged, hoping her words would carry enough weight to sway him. "For years, I've tried to forget my story," John mumbled, glancing out the window. "What if it just brings everything back?" Sarah moved closer, her voice softening. "Then you don't have to share it all at once. This is a gradual process. We meet regularly and create an environment that's safe and understanding. I've seen firsthand how sharing can alleviate burdens, little by little." "That's true," Thomas chimed in, his energy lifting the mood. "John, you won't have to do it alone. We'll be there supporting you through every step, every fear even if it takes time. Maria reached for John's hand, squeezing it tightly. This is about finding your strength, about facing your fears together. You don't have to be strong all at once. Just take that first small step. John's brow furrowed, his mind racing. For a moment, he seemed to fade into his thoughts. Then, like a thread pulled tight, he finally turned to them, vulnerable yet unwavering. I'll try. Not just for me, but for the ones who can't find their voices yet. If I can help them, maybe I can help myself. Joy burst in Maria's chest. That's it, John. You're not just a survivor, you'll be a beacon of hope for others. Together, we'll build a community that inspires. Sarah smiled, her relief evident as she nodded. That's the spirit. We can set a date for the first meeting and start discussing your involvement. They spent the next hour exchanging ideas, planning the community fair, and discussing John's initial participation in the support group. John's resolve began to strengthen, each idea weaving hope into the fabric of his fears. As their planning session wrapped up, Maria felt a shift in the atmosphere. John was no longer the distant figure captive to his shadows, he was a man ready to reclaim his light. They shared smiles and nervous laughter, the heaviness that once dampened the room now transformed into laughter that echoed off the walls. The door swung open yet again, bringing in another nurse, this one carrying a clipboard. Time for vitals, John, she said cheerfully. And I have great news. You're stable enough to consider leaving the hospital soon. The words hit like a rush of summer sun. Healing was not just possible, it was knocking at John's door, and soon he could step out into a world filled with support, purpose, and community. As they all embraced the news, Maria met John's gaze and saw the glimmering strength that had blossomed within. The journey ahead would not be easy, but it felt less daunting now. Her heart swelled with pride, knowing they would face the challenges together. Hours later, as the sun dipped low in the evening sky, Maria and Thomas stepped outside the hospital. They felt lighter, as if they had left the weight of uncertainty behind them. John emerged a moment later, a hint of a smile tugging at the corners of his lips. This is just the beginning, Thomas said, grinning at Maria. Yes, it is, she replied brightly. Their laughter intermingled with the breeze, a beautiful symphony of renewed hope. Together, they would cultivate community and understanding not just for John, but for every veteran poised on the edge of despair. As they walked toward the car, Maria's heart echoed with determination. They were not just rebuilding lives, they were fostering a movement rooted in compassion, healing, friendship, and resilience. Together, they would redefine strength. And in that moment, she understood one thing: for every darkness, there was a light waiting to break through. And as the stars began to twinkle overhead, it felt like the world was cheering them on. Now, as you reflect on this journey of transformation and hope, remember the power of connection and community is in your hands too. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss any more exclusive stories that inspire change. Leave a like now to help feed the algorithm and share these important messages. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation and feel the impact of hope. You need to show your support today, because true fans know that we can change lives together, and every little action makes a difference. Don't wait not even one more second to spread the word.